So I was chatting with a friend the other day who was telling me about his kids who are growing up way too fast, meaning driving. The little one only just turned 16 and is now zipping around in a car older than she is, but she is quite pleased with her new freedom, maybe too pleased. Her father's comment was, "She's gotten quite the attitude of bratitude." And we're like, "Hey, remember who pays the bills around here? Get on the dishes." Come on, Dad, dishes? What dishes? That child's got places to go and car keys in her hand. See ya. Well, before we all get going about kids these days, let me tell you a little story about something that happened way back in the good old days, and with adults, no less. This story is told in Luke's Gospel, chapter 17. I'll be starting at verse 11. On the way to Jerusalem, Jesus traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. As he entered a village, 10 men with skin diseases approached him. Keeping their distance from him, they raised their voices and said, "Jesus, Master, show us mercy." When Jesus saw them, he said, "Go, show yourselves to the priests." As they left, they were cleansed. One of them, when he saw that he had been healed, returned and praised God with a loud voice. He fell on his face at Jesus' feet and thanked him. He was a Samaritan. Jesus replied, "Weren't 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? No one returned to praise God except this foreigner." Then Jesus said to him, "Get up and go. Your faith has healed you." Well, 1 out of 10 isn't bad. As for the other 9, what were they thinking? Running off without so much as a wave of thanks? I am more polite to the truckers who move over so I can pass. And these men had just been cured of a contagious, dreaded skin disease which kept them in quarantine, away from the rest of the community. The lack of gratitude is astonishing, even worse than the teenager who neglects the dishes. Then again, Jesus did tell them to go to the priest. Maybe they were simply following instructions, or maybe they hadn't quite noticed they were healed, so intent they were on following orders. Hard to say, and I hate to judge 9 men I will never meet. But it's not their story, so we'll let them be. Instead, let's focus on the one guy who did turn around and thank Jesus for the gift of healing. So, besides the fact that he was healed from a skin disease and had decent manners, do we know anything at all about him? As it turns out, we know one little detail. He was a Samaritan, a foreigner in the eyes of Jesus' people. So what's a Samaritan? Samaritans lived in the land of Samaria, a slice of land that separated Galilee, where Jesus lived, from Judea, where Jerusalem and the temple were located. Now, in the very old days, Samaria had just been part of the unified kingdom that was home to Jesus' ancestors, but not anymore, not since the Assyrians had taken it over hundreds of years before Jesus' time, massacring most of the residents and repopulating it with Assyrians. Now, some of those invasive Assyrians paired up with the surviving girls who had been left alive for this purpose. Spoils of war, you know. And these young women taught their mixed-race children to worship God, keeping the old religion alive in Samaria. So theoretically, the Samaritans were of the same religion as their neighbors in Galilee and Judea, and even distantly related to them. But each culture had different ways of worshiping God. See, the Judeans and Galileans worship God in the temple, but the Samaritans, they worship God on a mountain they considered sacred. Temple Mountain might not seem like a big deal to us, but to those folks in that place and time, it was an irreconcilable difference, and both groups considered the others untouchable. You would do almost anything to avoid contact with them, even if they didn't have a dreaded skin disease. And this poor Samaritan dude, he was double cursed, a Samaritan in Judea and diseased. We don't know why he was there, away from his people, but we can imagine how doubly outcast he must have felt every day. It's unlikely that many folks offered him hospitality, and it's certain that most people crossed the street to avoid being near him until the day Jesus saw him. Jesus saw him. Now, most people, when they notice someone they wish to avoid, they look away, right? Pretend they don't see. Oh, did 10 disfigured guys just pass by? I did not see that. Too busy scrolling the phone, double checking the directions. Not Jesus. He saw all of them, all 10 human beings who were too ill to participate in the normal activities of life, including work. 10 human beings forced to the margins, not even well enough to sit in proximity to the rest of the community and beg for food. It'd be very easy to look the other way. Who wants to see that kind of suffering up close? Oh, Jesus, that's who. He saw them and he spoke to them, sending them back into the community, to the very place they were meant to avoid, the sacred place where the priests conducted holy rituals, the place where no diseased person was allowed to go. And somehow his redirection was enough to heal them. I don't know how it works, whether it's a medical miracle or a metaphor for the healing power of inclusion, or both. You get to wrestle with that one. I won't tell you how to hear this story, but I will ask you to notice the two responses and to think about what they mean. Now, I'm sure the 9 guys who skipped down the road to the priest were grateful for what Jesus had done for them, and I would like to think that they remembered his gift and became generous and compassionate people, giving alms to the poor and leaving out food for those who suffered from the same afflictions they had had. I really hope they did, but then again, maybe not. I mean, they didn't thank Jesus. That Samaritan, though, why is it that he turned around and expressed his gratitude? I do wonder if it has anything to do with his status in life, not just the illness, but the foreignness. It's tough to live in a place where people would rather you not be. To have Jesus look at him and welcome him, not only into the community, but into life itself and its fullness, that probably felt overwhelming. Of course, he fell on his face and thanked Jesus. For him, that was the only response he could imagine. He who knew the pain of being an outsider, easily overlooked. In the book I'm currently reading, Cherished Belonging by Father Gregory Boyle, he tells a story of going on a speaking tour with some of the former gang members who had been rehabilitated through his ministry, Homeboy Industries. As they were leaving a restaurant together, the waiter thanked them for coming. "No, thank you for having us," said Ashley, a former gangster, as if they were company in the waiter's house, not paying customers. Now, I'm willing to bet that Ashley was not raised with better manners than the rest of us, but how great was her gratitude compared to most? I mean, of course, I thank the wait staff every time I eat in a restaurant. I'm sure you do too, but maybe not quite as profusely as Ashley had. Why is this? Well, Father Greg explains that welcome is unexpected for folks on the margins. He said they are surprised by it. You fully expect people to cross the street. Like the Samaritan woman at the well with Jesus, we all thirst to belong and find welcome. He writes, homies feel like strangers in somebody else's home. Seeing the welcome mat in front of those who are on the margins leads us into a loving humility. It calls us to listen and truly see the other. Like Jesus did, with more than one Samaritan, it turns out. I love that about Jesus, but I confess to you it's hard to do, right? Seeing someone who appears scary and different could be dangerous. There's risk if we engage, even make eye contact or initiate conversation. There is risk in stepping into relationship at any level with someone we judge as other. Is it worth the risk, we wonder? Do we dare? Now, I cannot advise you in every situation, but I believe there is greater risk if we never dare. And I also believe we receive the greatest blessing when we do dare to welcome another. About a week ago, I was running an errand with a friend, and the young person helping us did a double take and said, "I know you." We didn't recognize this person until she told us who she was. She was a former elementary school classmate of our daughter's. We hadn't seen her since she was a little girl. And I remembered this kid as having a turbulent family life, involved one incarcerated parent and another parent who was likely on the same track as far as I could tell. It was good to see her, looking well and happy. She brought us up to speed on what she was up to, almost finished with college, starting a business, so excited about her future. Yeah. And then she looked deeply at my friend and said, "I want to thank you. When I was a kid, you invited me to your house for play dates with your daughter. No one else did that for me. But you were willing to drive over and pick me up. You normalized play dates for me. And it was life-changing, having a friend, being invited to someone's home." Well, as we drove off, we sat for a minute in stunned silence until my friend said, "You know, I don't even remember doing that. Maybe she came over once. I just don't remember it being a thing." But I tell you, for that kid, it was a thing, and a big thing, to have had these people who wanted her company enough to go pick her up from whatever place she was living, a place which probably felt a little dangerous to most folks, hence the absence of play dates. She didn't expect it, but when she received it, she was so grateful, and she still is to this day. That kind of deep gratitude reminds me how blessed I am. And the only response to that blessing is to share it, to give others reason to feel grateful as well. I've been given so much. And sure, I've said thank you, at least I think most of the time, and please forgive me if I'm delinquent ever with a thank you note. I do thank God every day also for what I have, which I'm sure God appreciates very much, but the truest and most profound act of gratitude, beyond the words, is to do what Jesus did, to notice those on the margins, those who have no reason at all to feel even a tiny little bit grateful, and to give them something, maybe even the smallest glimmer of faith in the goodness of humanity and in their own goodness. That kind of faith is the first step in healing and wholeness. In a world desperate for healing, every kindness matters, not because we will be thanked, but because it's our way of saying thank you to one greater than we.